Welcome, everybody, to another episode with Ryan KRAMER. I just want you to notice that if you are in Salt Lake City today, there's a few inches of snow on the ground, and look out the windows where Ryan is, and there's red hills and blue sky. You're going to love that. So remember, we got offices all the way across the state of Utah, and if you ever want to get out of the cold, this is the time of the year to do it. So welcome, Ryan. I appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Happy holidays.
Same to you. Same to you. We've learned a lot over the last 3 sessions with Ryan. He's covered a lot of material, and he's going to take a little different tact this week about rest. So I'm going to turn the time over to him, and without any further ado, Ryan KRAMER, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully everybody had a great holiday season. Obviously, we're right in the thick of it. Today's the 29th, so we've got one more month of work. I hope you guys are using this as an opportunity to really get in gear so that when January 1st comes, you can kick it off full speed ahead versus getting to the office on January 1st and starting to implement your new schedules. We should be doing that now as best as possible. I know we've spoken about different ways of increasing productivity and efficiency and how to get a little bit more assertive with our lead generation, prospecting, and profit generating activity. And so rather than add anything new to the routine or the schedule at this point, we want to give you an opportunity to really take those new schedules, if you've done anything with your schedule, of course, and implement it, because it's going to take time to, of course, start generating the results that you want from it. And it takes time to get used to those new schedules as well, like anything new in life. So continue doing what you're doing. I think in the next week or two, I may sit down with Daryl and management and look at, what ways we can increase, maybe adding 5%, 10%, 8% to those schedules for you to try to ramp things up a little bit, but we'll get back to you on that. I know we also spoke about doing maybe more of a workshop, sending out invites to certain agents. So it can be more of a one-on-one, and we can get more of the question and answering going back and forth. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to Daryl and myself, and we'll make sure you're on that list. Otherwise, we'll just send it out to the list that we created. So obviously, we talked about getting in shape and having schedules. A big part of what we do is only possible if we rest. So today we're going to talk about rest. Okay. And, when we're talking sports, for example, the physical attributes and skills that are needed to be successful are just one aspect of that. Of course, sleep, nutrition, stretching, and all of those things come into play as well to make sure you can put your best product on the court, the pitch, the ice, the field. Obviously, in our line of work, despite what most people think, it's actually quite hard emotionally and mentally to do this at a very, very high level. So there are 7 types of rest. Okay. For me, I would say there's probably 6. I kind of take 2 of them and clump them together. But there's 7 types of rest that the average high-producing person has to make sure they don't neglect, I guess you can say is the best way to put it. So number 1 is physical, right? The most obvious. We've talked about setting schedules. The biggest chunk of that schedule should obviously be sleep, because that's what we do 1/3 of our life. So make sure that's obviously on there. And maybe this is when you start looking at, as you set into your schedule, that you notice at 12:30 every day or 2:30 or 3:30 every day, you're getting a little foggy, right? That's maybe when now we can look and say, we need to add a 10 or 15, 20-minute power nap. I wouldn't personally add much more than a 20-minute power nap. Any more than that, you tend to get groggy the rest of the day. It's like certain individuals, high-producing individuals, will say they never eat more than 80% of their appetite because they want to make sure that they don't go back to work, in a food coma, if you will. And it's the same thing with sleep. You don't want to oversleep either. You want just enough to refresh yourself and get back out there. For me, I found anywhere from about 8 to 15 minutes is about ideal. Any more than that, I'm groggy. Any less than that, and I'm even worse than before I was going down for a nap. So number 1 is physical. Number 2 is mental. And it's really important in your mental rest that you have a start and a stop to every single workday. Now, I actually have one at nighttime and in the morning when I'm literally putting my feet on the ground for the first time. Um, the most important one for me is right before I go to bed. And we've spoken about there are certain apps on your phone like Calm and others that whether it's playing music or meditation type music or even meditation itself for just a few minutes to clear your mind makes a big difference. There is an official start to every sporting event, and in most cases, an official end as well. Usually there's the kickoff, the horn at the end of the game, and so that is what just like horse races, right? So I have a start to my day when I get to the office, and it's a very specific routine that basically tells me 3, 2, 1, go. And then when I am done for the day, I have a very specific routine as well and shutting it down. And for everybody, this can be different. It can be as simple as taking a piece of paper and checking it off and saying completed. We spoke about having a list of to-dos every day and checking them off as you go down. And at the very end of the day, you can say, completed or achieved, and boom, you click that off at the bottom as well. So for me, it's actually a horn in my office, right? When I sit down and I get ready to start working, it's just a little clicker, you hit it, makes a horn noise, right? Just like the beginning of a basketball game. So for me, that's what gets me going. But find a start and stop routine to every single day, because then you can actually leave the office with like a weight lifted off your shoulder that I'm done. And it may not be the office. It may be walking out of a closing, walking out of a showing, walking out of a listing presentation, walking out of a price reduction presentation, whatever it may be. Now you have an official stop to the day. So you can just kind of get that off your chest, set your phone aside, and focus on other things, family, dinner, rest, ball games, World Cup, whatever it might be that's going on at the given time. So physical. Number 2 is mental. Number 3 is social. Social is a big one that I think most people take for granted. They think, well, I'm off of work, so I'm going to go out with my friends, have a beer, have a burger, watch a game, go shopping, go get pedicures, manicures, whatever else. And I think everybody will relate to this. We all have at least 1 or 2 friends that 90% of what comes out of their mouth is just bitching, right? It's like, oh my gosh, he's always or she's always complaining. Life always sucks. And it's really important that in your social rest, you are spending time with people that re-energize you, right? Now, that doesn't mean they have to be optimist by any means, but people that motivate you, that don't drain you any more than you already are. We are in a business where the roller coasters are huge every single day if you're doing this at a high level. And so when you're off duty per se, and I know we never really are, but when you're off duty per se, you don't want to be around people that are just draining your energy further. Look at that as them basically taking money out of your bank account. So really make sure and look at your social group of who you're spending time with and making sure that they're not further draining that energy for you. The next one is spiritual. And this doesn't necessarily have to be obviously a religious thing by any means. Spiritual, we tend to relate this most to church activities, for example. But volunteering, going to the homeless shelter, I take my sports teams to the homeless shelter every year, especially this time of the year, to have the boys help out. I think it's also important if you can coach youth sports or go to the Big Brother, Big Sisters program and help the youth, you can go to the senior center and do stuff like this. I mean, there are things we can do that are bigger than us and bigger than our industry. And as corny as it may sound, it does create a great sense of fulfillment. And honestly, that sense of fulfillment is re-energizing. And that's one way that I've always found, whether it's coaching youth sports or doing things like that, where it really does help fill up my tank again, if you will, with all the energy that gets taken away from clients bitching about this or that, or just wanting to argue for the sake of arguing. Now, the next one's a big one. It's sensory rest. We live in a day and age of mass distraction. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was having a hard time. I didn't see one of my colleagues in the office who's a huge England fan, and the World Cup's going on right now. And so I'm assuming he may have been out watching England play Wales today. But yes, I actually had my iPad going and I was watching the World Cup today. I'm a huge USA fan, no matter what it is, curling or anything else, but that is a prime example of a massive distraction and sensory overstimulation, because we constantly have our phones. We're laying in bed at night, and most of my friends come back to me and tell me that, oh yeah, I was checking ESPN or Instagram or Facebook, or, I mean, gosh, Black Friday was a few days ago, but there's still Black Friday sales, and now it's Cyber Tuesday, and tomorrow will be Cyber Wednesday. So it's really, really important that you get on a rest schedule from sensory. It is also now proven, the same reason why I tend to wear blue light glasses, because I have noticed a difference in my sleep pattern. And when I wear certain devices to track my sleep, I did notice a significant difference in REM sleep when I started wearing blue light glasses, when I'm in bed watching TV or checking out ESPN or getting on my phone right before I go to bed. So it is really important that we work on creating a good environment, especially before we go to bed. That can be mood lights, music, device free. A big one for me is, like right now you can see, is the view. I mean, if you get an opportunity to enjoy a view, a lot of times natural stimulus like a view or a waterfall is amazing. So definitely add that to your rest schedule as well. Emotional is number 6. And I say that our industry is a roller coaster. I mean, you walk out of one appointment, first time home buyers at a closing, and they're thrilled, they're excited, and you have to put on that happy face like, oh my gosh, you guys are living the American dream now. Congratulations, I'm so excited for you. You're on your way. And then the next appointment or phone call you take is a divorce listing, and opposing counsel just wants to be a pain in the butt for the sake of being a pain in the butt. Or you're dealing with an appraisal issue that didn't come in, or you're just dealing with an agent who's an idiot who wants to make a transaction for you complicated because they'd rather be right than liked, and they're just being a pain in the butt. So throughout the day, there's just this roller coaster of high to low, high to low, high to low. Now, the general public doesn't understand we do that. And I think they take it for granted. I've noticed I have clients who are doctors, oncologists especially. School counselors probably have it some of the worst. Some of the stories I hear from my school counselors that have to go home with, hearing about rapes in the high schools and teen pregnancies and parents lying to other parents about whether it was a miscarriage or abortion and things like that. I mean, that's obviously a lot worse than what we have to deal with, but nonetheless, we have to deal with a lot of emotional highs and lows every single day. And we have to remain professional and even keeled throughout that. So it is really, really important that you get emotional rest. And a big part of that, and it does tie in a little bit to social, but you, in your friend group and family group, you have to be and have a circle that you can be authentic with, that you can be real with, and they can do the same with you. That's extremely important, because without that, you're going to continue to be fake. It's just like, we've all done it, and it's a professional thing to do when clients get excited about, one of their new upgrades they put in their house, and you have to pretend like you're super excited that they just got new brass moldings in their house, right? I mean, at the end of the day, when you've done that 20 or 30 times, it's draining. It really is. And it's also draining when you have to politely tell a client that, no, you're not right. This is what the market is. This is what the data suggests. If we look at all of this data, how can you intelligently come up with the fact that your home is worth this or that? And so emotional rest is really, really a big one. Now, creative rest for me ties in with the sensory. But nevertheless, everybody's a little bit different. I don't feel like I'm a very creative person at all, to be honest with you. I'm kind of a bump on the log. So when you're getting creative rest, a lot of people, a lot of agents I talk with are very creative. When you look at their social media marketing and advertising and things like that, they come up with a lot of great ideas. That's not me. I just find more gears if I can. Go a little harder, go a little faster, go a little longer. So creative rest, though, for most people is going to be getting outside, right? Nature, they have found through studies, is one of the best ways, again, to rejuvenate yourself and, that creative flair. And so if we go through the 7 again, you've got physical, mental, social, spiritual, sensory, emotional, and creative. The big ones to me, if you're going to narrow it down, because starting with 7 might be a lot for most people, and that's fine, because I've really narrowed it down to about 5, 6. But physical is obviously the key one, because without the physical energy to do anything, your mind, everything else doesn't work. So physical for me is number 1. Mental is definitely a huge one as well. The social is not as big of a segment of the rest for me, because I really don't go out, to be honest with you. The spiritual is, and I say that because, like I said, it really does fill up your tank. I mean, it is like having an energy drink when you can see smiles on kids' faces, or you're helping out at a homeless shelter. Doesn't mean you have to do it every week. Doesn't mean you have to do it every single month. But do it when you can. I know we can all find the time to do it. And if you're a parent, I think it's a great opportunity to take your kids and do it. I know all of my friends that have kids within the RE/MAX organization, they're all, mine included, are all pretty spoiled. And, they live a life far better than the average kid in America. And then emotional is a big one for me as well. I've noticed for me, emotional is, and this may sound funny, but the exercise segment of my day or training is where the physical training is where I get my tanks refilled that way. So if you have any questions on this, obviously, again, let me know. I know this is totally different than what we've been talking about, but I wanted to make sure we could give you something as we continue to grind and grind, that'll hopefully give you a little bit of a reprieve from cold calling and prospecting and sphere of influence and marketing to how can I refill my tank so that I can produce better starting hopefully tomorrow, but ideally January 1st, so we can hit the ground running hard. So we'll look forward to hearing from you.
Great information again, Ryan, as usual. We appreciate it. Something interesting about those categories that you're listing off, it follows suit with something similar that Brian Buffini does. He breaks his goals into pretty much those same categories. So it makes you think about your life in segments. It's a little bit easier maybe to form your goals around making some corrections and adjustments so that your performance can be at its peak, just like you said. So thank you. That was great information. And I do want to talk more about expanding our let's say a workshop or a boot camp or whatever we want to call it, to get right down into the weeds and help everyone try to implement these things. Because it's one thing to talk about, it's another thing to actually get it moving forward. And I think that's our next step. So I appreciate you being with us. Thanks again for being here. And as soon as I can get to St. George, I'm going to come down and enjoy some of that sunshine.
We'll see you next week.
Sounds like a good plan. All right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one. Happy holidays.